Within the merciless confines of the UFC cage, one misguided strategic decision can obliterate decades of relentless dedication. Justin Gaethje, renowned for his savage, relentless combat approach, flourishes amid bedlam and challenges rivals to meet his ferocity. But whispers emerging from his training circle suggest a massive transformation, an alliance that could either launch him to championship glory or demolish his chances against the devastating Ilia Topuria. The emerging figure is Roy Jones Jr., a pugilistic legend whose command of boxing's intricacies remains unquestionable. Initially, fusing Gaethje's devastating force with Jones's evasive mastery appears ingenious, yet the underlying truth is far more ominous. This alliance threatens a disastrous misinterpretation of mixed martial arts' core principles. The evasive genius that rendered Roy Jones Jr. invincible within boxing's squared circle could leave Justin Gaethje completely exposed in an arena where 4-ounce gloves transform everything. This critique doesn't diminish a champion's achievements, rather it acknowledges a brutal tactical reality. Methods honed within boxing's framework become deadly weaknesses when transferred into MMA's merciless environment. As Gaethje approaches a pivotal moment, this preparation risk transcends danger, becoming potentially devastating, with ramifications more serious than anyone realizes.
Roy Jones Jr. is going to get Justin Gaethje knocked out. Let me tell you why. Roy Jones Jr. has offered to work with Justin Gaethje ahead of Justin's fight at the White House against Ilia Topuria. Now, I gotta tell you, I'm what you would call a Roy Jones Jr. mark. I love him. I've always loved him. I think he is great. I have always thought that he was great.
Chael Sonnen's bombshell statement rips through mixed martial arts circles like a finishing strike. Roy Jones Jr., a boxing legend, faces accusations of inadvertently guiding a UFC champion toward catastrophe. This audacious forecast isn't simple criticism, it's an urgent alert that a storied partnership could explode disastrously. The burning issue remains: why would collaborating with an evasive master like Roy Jones Jr. appear threatening rather than beneficial, particularly with Ilia Topuria, whose strikes deliver devastating power through 4-ounce gloves approaching? Sonnen's concern reveals something deeper, a core mismatch between boxing and MMA fighting frameworks. Boxing's evasive mastery centers on mobility, head positioning, slips and rolls, methods Roy Jones Jr. developed to near perfection, forcing opponents to miss narrowly while responding with precise accuracy. Yet the octagon presents a chaotic spectrum of dangers: takedowns, elbows, knees, kicks, submissions. A head slip avoiding a punch might leave your neck vulnerable to a guillotine choke. Ducking beneath a hook could welcome a crushing clinch or double leg takedown. Evasive reactions honed in boxing suddenly transform into dangerous weaknesses within MMA's multi-layered combat zone. Roy Jones Jr. His brilliance remains undeniable, but it developed in a separate environment under separate limitations with completely different tools. Transferring those specialized techniques into MMA for a warrior like Gaethje isn't progress, it's a dangerous bet with career-destroying consequences. A brutal lesson that even legendary knowledge can become a fatal disadvantage when circumstances change.
That a fighter at the highest level, don't forget Justin Gaethje is an interim world champion fighting for an undisputed world championship. Does Roy Jones Jr. believe a fighter at the highest of levels can learn something new, something that he could implement in a live situation 6.5 weeks before competition? That would be something very interesting, particularly with somebody as stubborn as Justin Gaethje, by the way.
The essential concern centers on whether an elite combatant at his zenith can completely restructure ingrained responses just weeks before his career-defining confrontation. Justin Gaethje isn't inexperienced. He's a veteran champion whose approach emerged from decades of instinct-fueled aggression and measured savagery. Implementing complex, unfamiliar evasive systems now resembles demanding a virtuoso musician reconstruct their craft moments before a legendary concert. Gaethje's infamous inflexibility, frequently his most powerful weapon, drives his unstoppable methodology and unwavering confidence. Yet this identical characteristic could make any hastily absorbed technique a fragile pretense. Beneath Fight Night's intense pressure against a hunter like Topuria, a combatant inevitably returns to profoundly rooted behaviors. Movements etched across years will consistently supersede abilities practiced briefly. The genuine problem isn't Roy Jones Jr. and instructional capability, it's whether Gaethje can truly absorb and perform under battle stress, something so alien to his combat essence. This inflexibility saturates Gaethje's complete athletic character. He's an NCAA Division I All-American grappler, a wrestling foundation most competitors can only dream of possessing, yet he purposefully avoids grappling within the octagon, dedicating himself instead to striking exhibitions that established his reputation. This deliberate abandonment of a core skill he already commands exposes a mental barrier far beyond strategy. If Gaethje declines to utilize a tool he's extensively mastered, how plausible is expecting him to embrace a completely fresh defensive boxing methodology within weeks? The obstacle surpasses technique. It's a conflict of character and instinct, one that contrasts survival-focused defense against his domination-driven essence and against Topuria's constant pressure. Any trace of defensiveness could be interpreted as vulnerability, provoking an even more savage attack.
Justin Gaethje is an NCAA Division I All-American who has never wrestled inside the octagon. Are you ready for that? So now you're going to grab him and you're going to teach him defensively, because Roy went into detail, and Roy said it had to do with dealing with Ilya's punches, whether you're going to block them, whether you're going to slip them, whether you're going to roll with them. But you must, and I quote the great Roy Jones,
this paradox reveals the crisis essence. Gaethje, a grappling expert, deliberately abandons his wrestling dominance, yet now considers diving into defensive boxing, an ideology completely contrary to his attacking aggression. Roy Jones Jr.'s guidance to absorb the impact from those strikes reflects boxing's primary goal, damage reduction, accumulating points and surviving opponents throughout rounds. In MMA, where 4-ounce gloves deliver immediate fight-stopping force, partial deflections or incomplete evasions aren't survival methods, they're requests for catastrophe. Against a finishing specialist like Topura, absorbing even diminished power can mean unconsciousness, not survival. Gaethje's demonstrated durability isn't a defensive blueprint. It's proof of resilience, not a strategic barrier. Roy's guidance, brilliant within its original environment, completely misunderstands MMA's mechanics and approach, positioning Gaethje in exceptional danger. The gear difference isn't minor. 10-ounce boxing gloves, featuring significant cushioning and coverage, distribute and absorb energy, permitting fighters to deflect punches and recuperate. 4-ounce MMA gloves eliminate nearly all protection, focusing impact into crushing bare-knuckle style attacks. There's no absorbing impact when a precise punch connects with 4-ounce gloves. It's a knockout, a sudden knockdown, or serious injury. This dramatic difference reconstructs all evasive strategies, converting sophisticated boxing avoidance into a dangerous wager. The error tolerance disappears, requiring complete avoidance or aggressive responses over absorption methods, and dismissing this truth welcomes unprecedented peril.
Slip, duck, avoid, roll. I could drink to all of that. In MMA, if you have a strategy to be defensive, you got big problems.
This captures the situation's core. What represents tactical genius in one discipline transforms into a deadly weakness in another. Roy Jones Jr.'s legendary slipping, ducking, and rolling reduced damage, established angles and prepared counters, a boxing clinic. But Chael's harsh alert about major difficulties in MMA isn't hyperbole. It's the unavoidable outcome of 4-ounce gloves delivering pure focused impact with zero cushioning. Embracing a defensive boxing approach depending on subtle head positioning and partial deflections completely misreads the weapon targeting you, like employing medieval armor against modern firearms. Gaethje's current approach, while dangerous, at least offers overwhelming attacking threat. Switching to defensive methods without completely understanding 4-ounce glove mechanics is advancing into a trap. The risks escalate. Head positioning in boxing establishes counter opportunities, but in MMA, dipping or slipping can leave you vulnerable to knees, elbows, or takedowns. Spatial recognition requirements are completely different, and the puncher's opportunity increases dramatically. Every clean strike, even partial, can finish the contest. The concept of outscoring someone with evasive movements or deflecting shots to land your own is a deadly illusion against a power striker like Ilia Topuria, who requires just one clean connection. A defensive approach involving anything short of complete avoidance is disastrous. Topuria doesn't require extended striking dominance. He needs one connection, and if Gaethje depends on boxing methods designed for absorbing reduced damage, he's purposefully positioning himself in Topuria's finishing power's trajectory with essentially no defense.
That can't happen in MMA. That can't happen with 4-ounce gloves. If you go in there understanding, boy, this guy's gonna hit and this guy's gonna hit me hard, and I need to parry it, I need to slip it, or I need to roll with it. If you do any one of those intentionally, you're not gonna see the next round. And it wouldn't come down to who's better. In a straight-up boxing contest, it usually does come down to who's better. There is a puncher's chance.
This represents MMA's harsh truth. The error margin is impossibly narrow, and what thrives in boxing, that subtle deflection, that slight roll, that head positioning to reduce impact, becomes fatal in MMA. Chael's argument is devastatingly accurate. If you deliberately implement these defensive boxing techniques against an elite MMA striker with 4-ounce gloves, your night concludes. This isn't about superior ability, but immediate brutal results. The physics change, the impact changes, and recovery time evaporates. In boxing, a competitor absorbs a strike, recovers, and proceeds. In MMA, that strike frequently means confusion, stumbling, or immediate unconsciousness. Defensive strategy must target avoiding all major contact, not simply minimizing it. Depending on methods that assume you can absorb even partial heavy strikes tragically misreads the sport and equipment, especially against a predator like Topuria, who exploits every defensive mistake. Chael's personal account about consulting Roy Jones Jr. and appreciating it isn't inconsistent. It's confirmation of Roy's excellence within his realm, obtaining universal athletic knowledge about preparation, not specific fighting technique. Roy's conditioning guidance to Chael was transferable and fundamental, but implementing Roy's complex boxing defense to MMA is essentially different, not about universal fitness, but specialized combat implementation. The danger isn't that Roy errs in boxing, it's that his genius is wrongly applied in MMA. This isn't simply Gaethje acquiring something fresh, it's discarding, adapting, and incorporating within a brutally limited time frame. Facing a force like Ilia Topuria permits no space for testing or techniques still developing. Every action, every defensive reaction must be instinctive, developed through endless hours of MMA-focused preparation. The appeal of a legend's mentorship is attractive, but the octagon's merciless reality requires ruthless practicality over idealized collaborations, and Gaethje's career remains precarious, dependent not only on execution but on the tactical intelligence directing his preparation.
Moreover, do I think it's a good idea for Justin to be worried about Ilia's punches? Worried about taking the sting off, worried about absorbing them, but absorbing them less. In boxing, that is one half of the game. But in MMA,
this creates a formula, guaranteed. Chael Sonnen's ultimate alert is the most frightening condemnation. Roy Jones Jr.'s sincere advice could guarantee a knockout. Concerning yourself with Topuria's strikes, concentrating on reducing impact, demonstrates a boxer's approach created for multi-round endurance and point accumulation. In the violent, unpredictable realm of 4-ounce gloves against a fighter possessing Ilia Topuria's knockout power, such thinking is a direct pathway to unconsciousness. There's no reducing their impact. There's only absorbing or avoiding, and with 4-ounce gloves, absorbing a clean strike usually concludes the bout. This isn't a victory path, it's a tactical error with potentially career-destroying results. Justin Gaethje's reputation is constructed on his willingness to participate in brutal, continuous warfare. If he enters the octagon against Topuria, equipped with a defensive boxing mindset, he'll be fighting his own reflexes, the sport's mechanics, and advancing directly into a crushing knockout. His legacy, built through determination and violence, confronts real danger. The stunning choice to adopt this defensive training isn't growth. It's a perilous gamble that could destroy everything he's achieved.